Good evening. I am Radagast. This is Mystic Brew. And the earth is moving under our feet. So, hello, Connie and Meandering Mystic. I'm going to certainly take a little time because I definitely have things on my heart, on my mind. I'm I'm a little bit rattled, as our Earth is. I'm in a little bit of a fiery temperament, as our moon is. And there's a sense of a cleansing coming of some sort. It's been an ongoing process. It just keeps on amping up a bit. Let me bring the mic a little closer to my mouth. Probably make it a little bit easier because this is a sensitive mic. And want to congratulate CW Chanter on his third anniversary. I was lurking for those nights. I've been experiencing this weekend kicked off with that deep earthquake by Fiji. Not that I was having hello Sam. Not that I was having the smoothest, actually I was feeling quite troubled until that happened, and at least when that happened, that 9.2, I think it was, by the Fiji region, and I do believe that was on Saturday. I got a little relief. There's a YouTube channel that focuses on a volcano, one that's actually considered their Axis Mundi, almost like their Mount Meru of sort. His name is Agung. He's a volcano. Hello, Christian Martin. And just watching him smoke a little bit was calming, and then of course there's some real-time seismograph things coming in, and we were kind of witnessing the real-time earthquakes that were hitting Lombok that created some death, misery, and destruction. Interestingly enough, Dutch Since, who as of today, he's no longer streaming live, probably owing to harassment from the official scientists. Hello, RC. I might have to sign up for Twitch because I know he does a live stream there. Hello, Deborah. And I was, he makes predictions, and then when you see the live stream, you can see that many of the places he said that you're going to start seeing stuff show up here, they do show up. When the Fiji earthquake hit on Saturday night, he said that there was basically places like Lombok in Indonesia would be affected, and they were hit pretty bad just about the time he said he would. Fortunately, social media allowed some people to get the word out. Even after I was watching last night, I spent quite a few hours there. And actually somebody who was part of our chat, she even asked me to give my regards to Raksha. Her name is Nina Nina Bali B. But anyway, the name of there's a YouTube channel called Volcano YT or YT Volcano, and they have different feeds. And this one is Mount Agung in Bali. And but they have kind of the seismic feeds from the various islands there. But Dutch Since had warned. He even called the Indonesian government and warned them, and they laughed at him. No, because he doesn't have all the degrees that his people do, because he's broken a new system. He understands. Whenever he does his Earth globes, he has all these arrows, and he shows how when something happens here, how it moves. He knew it was going to happen. So it was interesting to see YT Volcano say that there is no scientific proof that what happened on Lombok had anything to do with the Fiji earthquake. Basically, to me, they were covering their asses, because Dutch Sins had put out a warning. It did happen, but since there's no scientific evidence, their asses are covered. Must have been a coincidence. They stuck to their fucking system, instead of listening to people who are really, really invested and maybe brilliant and in touch with what's really going on, instead of some fucking archaic, stuck-ass system that cost people their lives. But of course, it might have been a coincidence. Maybe it didn't cause. Maybe it wasn't their stuck-ass system. The fact that some crazy person who doesn't have all the paperwork called it, and then it happened, was just a coincidence. We all believe in coincidences, right? And so I went to follow up, and sure enough, he said that things would be showing up on the antipode side of Fiji. And sure enough, already Turkey, and he said around Turkey, Iran, whatever. He pointed, even showed how the energy would move. And they're already showing up. The Fuego in Guatemala, which is another volcano, went on, and it had been quiet after it had been flaring up a few weeks ago or a few months ago. Within, like, I don't know, 12 hours or whatever, all of a sudden it was starting up again. And he called it. He said, because he showed it's going to hit South America and Central America before it hits the west coast of North America. Oh, play on words. Try to be more subtle, Sam. Just because I don't have any moderators here right now. I'm it. Maybe I should make you a moderator. So needless to say, I got a little bit of relief when that big deep earthquake, the second in recorded seismic history, the largest earthquake on the earth. And I like the word earth because one of the things that both round earth and flat earth people have in common is they both agree there's an earth. Oh, thank you, Sam. Not surprised, Sandy. Again, you know, Dutch Sins has slightly over 250,000 subscribers. Anybody who watches him, who's watching for a few months, has seen him call stuff that happens. But again, he's using a new model instead of the system model. I'm going to be railing against systems, because systems are part of the sickness. So I almost didn't do a stream tonight because I was almost, one would say, I'll use the word afraid. Well, so recognizing there was some fear meant, well, that's because there's fear, we must overcome it. Hello, Jet Pet. So And not to mention, my mind was on fire about this and about some other things that kind of, how did CW put it? Dust-ups. Dust-ups within the community. But I don't want to go there right now. I want to stay a little bit focused about the earth. When I laid down for a while, because I was needed to commune with our planetary animal mother, since things are moving rapidly. Hello, Callan. And it's just interesting what came to me, or was given to me. At this point, it doesn't matter, because it is no to be part of her is to lose the boundaries as much as possible, and just to be part, a smaller part, the smaller, an operating part of a super organism. And that would be the earth and her consciousness. And an interesting thing came to me. I mean, before Raksha removed himself from YouTube, he spoke a bit about the coming fires. This last new moon arose in the constellation of Leo. Leo has some association with fire. In the zodiac, it is a fire sign. At least Leo is a fire sign. The constellation is not the zodiac. The zodiac is based on the constellations. Of course, there is, within our ecliptic, there's 13 constellations. Ophiuchus, the snake tamer, is the 13th constellation within the ecliptic of all the, I guess it's 55 recognized constellations, but the ecliptic defines the ones that we should be paying the most attention to, especially with our 13 moons a year. I am working to be measured, and if this volcano blows, that there's a few rumbling earthquakes to alert that it's coming. And perhaps it'll just be some steam like Ogung is letting off on Bali. I looked at Ogung just before, a minute before starting the stream, but his head was shrouded in clouds, although the rest of the sky is clear. But it looked like from that, almost like a ring of clouds around his head. I don't want to use the word halo. It looked like he was still letting off gentle steam. And so that certainly was my cue for the beginning. So before Raksha left us, he did speak about a coming fire. And of course, he left YouTube, but he didn't leave his friends, the ones who made sure that, and I actually have maintained a relationship with him, a face-to-face, voice and face relationship with him. Hello, iWalkatone. Hey. And so we in the group, and occasionally there is more than just myself and Raksha. There is not only the imagery and the feeling and the sense of some kind of fieriness. Hello, Madfinger. I'm very happy to see you. But there's even been dreams. Of, let us say, drug-addled people, and the people is plural, burning. The word addled is an important qualifier. Fire. Thank you. I've had the last, probably 4 or 5 days, I have been miserable. Combinations of depression and anxiety. Very often a weird combination of both. Almost like an anxiety about the future and a depression of that when that future becomes past. So I got some relief when the deep quake hit off the Fiji area. So what came to me when I laid down about 2 hours ago, specifically to commune with our planetary animal mother, to commune with wisdom, the English word for Sophia, and it was interesting because I hadn't really looked at the word Fiji. So being acquainted enough with numerology that I inherently know all the numbers, what their values are, what the letters are. I knew I didn't have to, I knew both the I's are 9s. So for the sum of for the sum of Fiji, or at least the resolve sum, I didn't need the I's. So first, I just added the F, which is a 6, and the J, which is a 1, which gave me a 7. But then something said to me, you need to add the I's too. So I did. And so the full number of all the numbers added up is 25, and 2 and 5 gives us the resolved number of 7. Now I'm going to kind of step back a little bit, so to make some sense of these numbers. At least the sense from a theoretical playing with numerology. And also playing with a certain collective belief system that belongs to at least the Christian Abrahamic tradition, which is revelation. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So when that deep quake struck Fiji, or around the Fiji region, at 500, I think it was 520 or 9, it was either 523 or 900. It was very deep kilometers, okay? But a very, very deep one. So there really was no surface ramifications, but the energy was released. And that energy will travel. Hello, MC. And that energy will travel. And what Dutch Sense was doing on his model was showing how that energy would travel. And one of the first places it would travel would be to the Indonesian island chain. And Lombok got whacked in less than 24 hours. And it's had a few repeated things, including a landslide or hillslide. I watched a couple of minute clip of it, and it was miserable. So basically, he was showing how it would travel, and the interesting thing is that the even as it travels across the Atlantic, it wouldn't make it. It would base its wall that it would hit, so would be the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So it could affect the Azores. He even predicted a small, like maybe a 2 or 3 magnitude on the southern coast of England. And I'm saying England instead of the UK because I'm talking about what used to be just plain old England. And so we'll see if that shows up. But Turkey has already gotten some small ones. Albania has gotten some small ones. Iran has had some small ones. Almost like with less than 24 hours, there was some in Xinjiang, China. He was calling it. He was really calling it. And the longest trip it has really kind of to make is to the west coast of the United States. And with Mexico and Southern California being first, and Southern California and Northern California have had like 2.0s, little ones so far. And then going a little further north, a little bit more of a travel to the Cascadian fault zone, where actually I remember reading something today. I think it might have been on Zero Hedge. Whereas much as everybody focuses on California, is like, oh, it's overdue. The Cascadian fault zone is very overdue. There's could be a lot of stored energy there, and a nudging could produce effects. Thank you. Interestingly enough, there are two cities that have majestic dormant volcanoes as their backdrop. And I think that's, I think it's Mount Hood in Portland and Mount Rainier in Seattle. And also during the last full moon, there was a little uptick in some activity, as there often is. So here's the interesting thing. On Saturday, when that quake struck, that was the 18th. Dutch said it would take about 7 to 10 days before before it kind of would expend its energy. And somewhere into that time period, especially before the heavier parts of the energy would be reaching places like the United States West Coast. The reason I keep on focusing on the United States is because the United States often is the receiver of news of catastrophic quakes that happen in other places, like in Lombok, Indonesia recently, and other really nasty quakes. The one that happened during the World Series, I forget in what year. That was a nasty one out in California. But some of the ones that usually happen in other places of the world could be construction codes, any number of things. But were particularly nasty. Hello, Forever Conscious. So the interesting timing is that 7 to 10 day window kind of is basically when the full moon on the 26th occurs. Please pay attention to the number 26, because the day before the 26th is the 25th. Basically just as the full moon is pulling into its full position. Let's get back to Fiji and the numerology. When I added up all of the letters to come up with the total for the F, the I, the J, and the I, the total was 25. The resolved number was 7. And for some reason, and I don't normally think these kinds of thoughts because it's not my system to think within. But then again, there are, at least a billion or so people who kind of draw their narrative from that system, although I'm quite sure the percentage of the hardcore, let's bring on the apocalypse types, are much smaller. And so I'm wondering, part of me that's playing with that is the number 7, the 7th seal. And so I'm just wondering whether there wasn't some code in this very deep, second most powerful recorded earthquake in Earth history. Again, recorded. We're going to be careful. Don't want to say of all time, just as since records have been kept. And I'm just, wondering, and then, then the prediction by Dutch Sense that somewhere in the 7 to 10 day window, the kind of like the full wave will have reached all its possible destinations. And one of those destinations, and one of the ones that'll take the longest, is the west coast of the United States. So somewhere that 7 to 10 day window corresponds with the full moon. But with the coding of 25 there, if it has any application, I'm not saying it does. It's a big if. But if there's anything to that, if there was a reason I was led there in my communing and my meditation and communication with Mama, or reaching out, but actually quite a bit into her Dakini by Vari, who's on shift. Came on to shift on new moon. Interestingly enough, the earthquake happened on the first quarter, the last quarter. The deep one, the Fiji one. Happened on the last quarter moon. I mean on the first quarter. I'm sorry. Yeah. There was the new moon, First quarter, coming up to the full moon. So on the first quarter is when the earthquake at Fiji happened. I might be chain smoking like a gung. Keep enough nicotine in the system. I mean that the lava might not flow, or at least not no pyroclastic flows. And rather than having coffee, I made myself some white tea with melon. All the earth moving under our feet has me a little jittery. So I thought theophylline rather than caffeine, because theophylline is the molecule that does what caffeine does in coffee. They're not the same. Basically, the difference between theophylline and caffeine is there's right-handed and left-handed molecules, and I forget which is which, but we'll just say, for if caffeine is the right-handed molecule of the same chemical, then theophylline is the left-handed molecule of the same chemical. And that left-hand, right-hand stuff is different in how it goes into our body. Yeah, meandering, I was sharing with somebody a dream that somebody had shared with me about, let's say, stoners suddenly finding themselves on fire. So in case you missed that. Oh, hello, new member of our community, Elephant. Although I was only lurking in CW's chat, I saw you interacting there, and you seem like a very nice human. I can't guess genders, so but welcome. And there is this having an elephant, or at least with the username and avatar, might be quite appropriate to the earth moving under our feet. So anyway, back to the kind of like the numerology. So Fiji being a 7 and setting off what will be a series of ramifications for that energy that did not express itself where it happened. It was too deep, so it's going to spread across the globe. Thank you, Lisa. Well, here's the real heads up I want to get, because I don't want to be doom porn. Pay attention, be attuned to the earth. If you can consider her mama, this is a good time to do it. And just pay attention to intuition, to dreams, to animals, and if you can find them, pay attention to Dutch synths. And he always basically accounts the same thing. It's just like, if you live in one of these areas, have a bug out bag. Like be ready to be inconvenienced, for a day or two. So have some snacks and some water. A jacket in case suddenly, summer gets cool. Sometimes happens. You're welcome, Lisa. So the two again. So we have this window of at least Dutch Sense predicting that it's going to take 7 to 10 days from the 18th. So that's 1, 2. We're now on the third day into that 7 to 10 day, and within that 7 to 10 day window is the full moon, which officially is on the 26th. That's when I'm looking at my calendar. But the day before the full moon is the 25th. So the two numbers, and I said I don't normally play like this, but I'm sitting down, I'm waiting just to get some calm and some stuff, and all of a sudden it was like suddenly Fiji was my focus. Do the numerology. And knowing that nines disappear, I completely ignored the I's. I added up the F, which is a 6, the J, which is a 1, had my 7, and went, oh, 7. And all of a sudden a voice kind of said, add the 9s, came up with 25. And that's when I realized, oh, the day before the full moon. So, I mean, again, pulling into the full moon and how that, creates higher tides. In other words, it creates tectonic effects. And here we have all this energy that needs to express itself at tectonic fault lines. And it just, you could say, a picture unfolded of, if not the full moon, the day before, on the 25th, is when whatever's going to happen, great or small, that looks like Fiji was kind of a marker. Fiji is where it began, and within the kind of coding was the sense that the 25th will be the expression, the day of how this energy expresses itself. And then there's also that the big number of 25 resolving to 7, knowing that, again, there's a huge psychic pool that's kind of living in, within revelation, and which seal is which. And then this whole thing of, maybe is 7 the 7th seal, when all shit breaks loose. And who or what that beast is has a lot of room for interpretation. It's almost like, who's calling who a beast? Who is the whore of Babylon? You still here, are you still here? Let's see, who's it? Mad Finger? Mad Finger is the moderator. Yeah, I think Mama wants to, knows that there's a lot of people screaming for the apocalypse. She might be about watch what you wish for. And of course, apocalypse really means unveiling, but for others, it's kind of like an end time scenario. Oh, hello, Niche. Good. Now we have 2 moderators. Excellent. I did want to have moderator coverage because I've been kind of speaking about tectonics, that when an energy is introduced to a medium, it will express itself. It has to express itself in one way or another. And since we'll use the name everybody knows him as, CW, since he spoke about little dust-ups in the community, but he seemed to focus on one in particular. Because it was an out-and-out kind of stone throwing and flame throwing and naming names kind of dust up. It was a directed attack. He didn't name names. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to kind of do a little walkabout here. I'm to a certain amount being guided, and I will have to get up and light the next stick of incense, because I want a stick of, I'm burning my Nag Champa, is the most calming incense I have. I thought the dragon's blood, I thought it might be just a little over the top, since if I were to refer myself to a volcano, there is steam coming off the top of my head. And it's been a building pressure. It's a pressure that has been looking for the proper resolve. And when the war flags were waving, names were used. When the truce flag came out, there were no names, and things like, oh, rough moon, Mars made me do it. Not the spirits might have influenced me. No, it was kind of, and I'm reminded of, I forget which person said it. It was an astrologer. The stars influence, they do not compel. And yet there was somebody waving a truce flag saying, I was under the influence of the stars. Under the influence might be very correct. Matter of fact, I was there, watching it live. Or maybe recorded, who knows. It was pretty clear to me that under the influence was definitely applicable. But I wouldn't call it Mars. Is Budweiser a planet? That's funny, Madfinger. And it's good. You're pretty good at some levity, because I won't get off. I'm not going to lose focus. Well, yeah, that's kind of, again, we know it's one. It's one, when the war flags are waving, the names are right there, and then when the truce flag goes up, it's just general truce. And again, no owning, real sense of little embarrassment. But, well, my candle is burning in my salt lamp. I have a Himalayan sea salt burning, the candle I consecrated just prior to this stream going live. And I can see the incense went out, which is always pleasant about having a candle. Makes lighting the incense pretty easy. So anyway, I'm just gonna, it will take a moment. Thank you. And all the other mentals, and especially let's do this right. Oh, the ones with the big chunks, yeah, I've seen those. This is just when you put kind of like, you know, a 10 or 15 hour candle in. 10 hours are a little bit easier because the 15 hours come over the top of this one. Although I've done both. So, while watching, you know, CW had his 3rd anniversary streams this weekend. I was there, lurking, because, well, I've been lurking a bit. I've attended a number of streams that I did not make my presence known. The better to know what's on people's minds. Sometimes when a presence is known, speech is curbed. And then you get lack of authenticity. And I remember reading something in one of the streams, and it might have been before the dust up or whatever, but again, it was people dragging my brother Raksha Moose through the mud and slinging feces and rocks and an occasional arrow. Oh, the arrow was largely one person. And somebody was speaking about somebody might be under the influence of Raksha, and then even saying, and maybe Madwiz too. And I went, how fucking insulting. As if, I mean, Raksha is my brother, and I have utmost respect for him, and we share so much. There is so little sharing. I mean, you know, we don't share our toilet habits. Many a meal, content is shared, but not everyone. But there's a lot of sharing there. But to kind of like think that I am so weak in my character. This is just about, to me, for somebody to opine that Raksha might be getting to me or influencing me is to insult me. It's one thing that the person was already kind of saying, oh, this Raksha is this fucking manipulator, blah, 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 and all that nonsense. but to imply that not only is Raksha a manipulator, but I might be one of the puppets on his strings. Yeah, I didn't say anything, but I offered a hearty, energetic fuck you to that person. I don't even quite remember who it was, because this isn't about singling people out. This is about who is the community, and nobody called them out. It wasn't like he said something like that and somebody, I think there actually was one or two people said, oh, I don't think so. But again, that's the whole thing about being invisible, is you want to see how do people react. Somebody puts out some kind of shit thought like that, and how did the people in the crowd react to that kind of shittiness? Silence is its own statement. So I was very happy last night that even though Raksha Moose is no longer on YouTube platforms, and he's removed himself from every single platform, including Google Plus. With the exception, there's obviously he has connections to the people who connected with him over these many months. I'm one of those people. It's not right for me to identify who else is. I'll just identify myself. As in many ways, identifying myself as almost a big duh. So I was very pleased that as wild as CW can be, and he can occasionally say some oafish things, he owns what he says. If he perceives himself as being incorrect. And again, in last night's stream, he mentioned witnessing what had been a live stream, but a recorded stream by one of those of us in the, let's say, the more magical part of the community. And kind of like issuing magical threats to Raksha Moose. He seemed to recall a little better than I did, because I watched it when it happened, which is a little while ago, and he watched it recently, so it was fresh in his mind. And he expressed some astonishment, like shock and revulsion. And so I was similarly revulsed. So when the white flag of truce came out during a stream with no names, when the red flag of war wove, there were names. When the white flag of truce came up, no names. Hello, Suzanne. Wizzy don't play that. Well, if you're, you know, if you're going to name names when you're bellicose, if you're truly want to end the bellicosity, then use the same names you use coming in when you're leaving. Yes, I was in contact with Raksha. She's doing well. The surgery went very well. Matter of fact, he's taking good care of her as we do this stream. So that's why when, matter of fact, why I let certain people know that I was present for the, where everybody was kind of this weekend, CW's anniversary, but I didn't want to be inauthentic, and neither did I want to be disruptive. Neither did I want to be shitty. I may have wanted to be shitty, but it wasn't a good place. To me, you want to be shitty with somebody, you use modern technology, and you go face to face. The way Raksha and I met was after we kind of knew we were in the same community. I said something on a video of mine. He was doing a stream, and I don't think he quite alluded to me, but he kind of, you know, he shaped, kind of like I'm shaping things here. Let me know he was unhappy with me. And we had already been friendly, and, you know, we'd already made the right moves, and I'd gotten a Skype connection going. And as soon as I realized he had an issue with me, I Skyped him, and I said, we have to speak. And it wasn't, we have to speak. No, it was, we have to speak. There's a misunderstanding here. And so, like two adults, we had a meeting together, and the rest is where we are today. Much love, brothers, clan brothers, and doing lots of shamanic unpacking and work together with others. Now, the person I'm speaking about, I went to check. We had a Google, you know, you can have all these, you know, private things, and I went to check what was going on there, and the other side had left the connection. Wouldn't be not too much of a line of communication open up there, and when it was presence that I was in CW stream, everybody, where's my, that's because I hadn't said anything. Popped up my owl, and the person I have issues with, oh, it's all good, XX00, in a live chat, we had a real connection. Let's do a Google call. Oh, we can't do a Google call because the other side isn't there. Kisses and hugs in a live chat? Fuck that. Yeah, I know. There's been a few dust-ups. I'm just speaking. I'm focusing on the one that. I'm focusing on the one that focused on my brother Raksha Moose. And of course the Telestai. I mean, my name wasn't quite mentioned, but I was alluded to. And, you know, the Telestai, and he, you know, let's have a barroom brawl, put one hand behind my back, and, you know. Hello, Clendel. And once again, it's good to resolve differences. It's healthy to resolve differences. But there's a way of doing it. Thank you, Lee. Well, that's MC. That's exactly it. It's just like, to me, it's not for public consumption. Once you name a name, it may be entertainment when it's happening. It's not entertainment to me. Now it's personal. So that means we need to take it private. Resolving differences for me is not for public consumption. It's not for entertainment. It's not for views. It's not for subscribers. Oh, gee, this might get juicy. This isn't Facebook. And like I said, the first time, it was after being on a CW live stream and having kind of met Raksha through one of those live streams. One of the ways a lot of us, I mean, I already had 800 subscribers before, 800 plus subscribers before I joined CW. But once I had been on one of the CW streams, I got 100 or so extras. You know, well, I got a big upsurge, and who knows what the rest of the growth was. But it has to do with the fact that we have this larger, greater community. Matter of fact, during our live streams, Raksha and I both directed people to check out, and if you like it, subscribe to this person and to another person. I don't regret sending people there because they seem to like it there. So why would I regret sending them someplace they seem to enjoy? That would be silly, right? From a personal point of view, it seems a little ungrateful, but I don't regret it, because if people are enjoying where they have subscribed, then I did the right thing. And it also provides good feedback data. And based on that feedback data is why I did not make myself present and be chummy in the live streams over this weekend. Because I noticed that there, once again, there are people who may not know I've seen things. And then greeting me warmly seems a little inauthentic. And I'm not in the mood for inauthenticity. The pretending is over. I have never been a pretender. There are a lot of solid people. There are solid people in this community who are not pretenders. But there's a fair amount of pretending going on. One cigarette down, another to roll. Yeah, this is going to be... I rarely chain smoke. Elephant, since you're new, in most cases, they're on moderators in all cases. So if somebody gets a little feisty and needs a timing out, they can do that. If somebody shows himself to be totally encourageable. They can be hidden. But in this stream, largely the blue wrenches are for people who are aligned with mama. So when they send, and because the blue wrenches tend to attract attention in a stream where a lot of ideas are going out. And my desire, especially this kind of going just a few weeks back when I had my weekly Can't You Hear Me Gnostic live stream, the people who were aligned with mama and would say kind of planetary, tantra relevant, make those kind of comments, those are the comments that I wanted to have a little extra oomph in them. And so so I hope that explains it to you, elephant. And I'm saying elephant because you spelled it the way you did, and I have a feeling elephant is the correct pronunciation. Oh yeah, I know you're a mama's boy. That's why you got a blue wrench. That's why Niche has a blue wrench. That's why Raksha had a blue wrench. That's why Foxadre has a blue wrench. Because there really hasn't, every once in a while there's been intrusions. I agree, Niche, it is a hard community to be female in. I mean, it's not that the females don't get attention, but they kind of get that old kind of, you know, ooh, baby. And, you know, I think the feminine deserves better than, ooh, baby. I mean, once you get to know them, if she gives you the signal, well, damn, if you don't give her a new baby back, well, then you just, you know, you're not signaling. But, I mean, again, there's things work in stages. Yeah, there certainly is. Which is one of the things for me about Can't You Hear Me Gnostic is you could be a male and still aligned with the divine feminine. And that's why people like myself and Madfinger, mama's boys. Because the divine feminine does need a divine masculine. One calls to the other. I'm not going to call it toxic masculinity. I think that'd be unfair. Let's just call it let's call it biblical masculinity. Sam, very well said, because when you really look at in an earth natural setting, you don't have a tribe, you don't have a community without the babies coming out of the women. So the least that healthy men will want to do is defend where all that life is coming from and honor it. And make themselves fucking useful. Oh, opera masculine. I like that. I did get some shout outs last night about my Can't You Hear Me Gnostic thread, and it was good things were said. And one of the things, because it was, you know, that stream was offering a perspective that was really focused on something that doesn't get any focus in the greater community. Planetary tantra, that kind of earth-based magic is a distinct flavor, a distinct, its own river. Oh, you mean like, oh, this panel needs a few vaginas on it? Yeah, kind of weird. But, again, that's the abramasculine. Abracadabra. MC, I have right now, I don't have a clear signal, and actually I want to see what, as I started the stream out with the seismic going ons, the energy that was released this Saturday with that deep earthquake that is yet to find full expression. I want to find out whether there's going to be anybody to talk to after this weekend. I have played with, if I go there, with a title that will, rather than Gnostic, will focus on the word telestic. One of the a lot of times you have like ideas and you have to hammer them out. But a rough idea is telestic transmissions. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe that we could. Hello, Joe. I like what you're saying there, Joe. I think we can refer to women as women, and we kind of all know the genitalia thing, unless the PC, whatever that's called, doesn't make that in. We can't assume that anymore. But I really can't, I can't work in that milieu. And I'm glad you came and joined the live stream. I like you, I like your music. I like the way you handle and do thorough coverage of any subject that you choose, even if the subject that you choose wouldn't be my topic. You do a really good job. Really thorough job. Matter of fact, often the data you bring up, it's almost kind of like, wow. I mean, that's, it's like this guy did some homework. Dug down. That's impressive. And again, I know I am loving doing my garden, and I know you love gardening, but I also once you kind of garner an audience and they're kind of expecting McDonald's, don't be serving kale salad. They'll desert the restaurant. MC, I don't know how you got into, I'm talking about Joe from the Carolinas here. Unless you were talking to somebody else in the chat. It's kind of funny where, I'm talking about a certain dust up, and somebody who came out against Raksha and Telestai, and it's almost like Lord Voldemort, he who shall not be named. I have to admit, I'm not worried about jinxes, but the skies have been remarkably clearer, not clear, but much less frequency and much less volume of sky geoengineering, we'll call it, to be concise. And I know other people are talking about, with the new UVC rays, all their crops are burning up. My plants are eating it up and growing crazy. I mean, I've never seen things grow like this overnight. It's quite delightful. Because I started late, because I didn't have the house to myself until just a little over a month ago. And so that's when I started it, because now it's my backyard. Yeah, it has been a wet summer, but I have really poor soil because it's very clay-like, so it doesn't drink a lot. I mean, we could get like super duper rain, and once the sun comes out, almost right away, a day, sometimes by the end of the day, the clay is already showing those dry cracks. So the clay, in a certain way, is preventing root rot. But I've been improving the soil little by little. Matter of fact, I already had my zucchinis down. I thought I had corn. I found out the corn I bought, because I wanted to get a colored, nice, not a yellow corn. And I found out the corn I bought was made for popcorn. So I generally wait for the moon cycle. So I waited for the new moon before I planted my corn and my snap peas. I wanted to grow kidney beans. I could not find any kidney bean beans. So I planted sugar snap, because I wanted to do the Native American one, the Three Sisters, I guess they call it, where you have a gourd, or like a pumpkin type in that family. So you have a gourd, corn, and a pea, or a bean. So the zucchinis were up, and I have some zucchini leaves that are like practically shading my corn. Fortunately, the sun is the angles, but the corn dish is already shooting up. The peas have shot up. Well, what's nice about living in my very rural part of Virginia is even when you go to the hardware store, they have all these heirloom seeds, various varieties. And then I also have my health food store, where I bought some of my certified organic seeds. And needless to say, I use nothing. I go out, and there's been some bugs that have been vexing some of my plants, and I go there and I kind of pinch them off and squeeze them off, and because it's, I have a small garden. If I had a huge garden, it would be rough. But I just kind of go out there, and then once they get a little bit healthier and they get some of the bigger leaves, they seem to do okay. And I don't mind. I juiced my first kale. I don't think it was yesterday. I think it was the day before. I actually had to prune my kale. It's not really quite ready, but I had to prune my kale because it was shading my beets, and it was also starting to shade some of my other stuff. So I just pruned so that all the things that are coming up that needed the sun, that the kale was starting to shade. I said, okay, well, this is a good way. And so I made my normal concoction, which is kale, broccoli stalks, because I cooked the florets and add that to all things, and I save the stalks. And especially organic broccoli stalks are sweet. Even a good way to eat the stalks, if you don't chew them, is you peel off the bark. Broccoli stalks have a real fibery bark, and you could peel that off, and then you can cut them up into almost like carrot strips. And if it's organic broccoli, it is sweet. It's delicious. And so, oh yeah, and then carrots. So I do carrot juice, broccoli, stock juice, and kale. And whatever juice I make, like if I make a cup of juice, I add a cup of water. I dilute it by half. Because the good thing about using all organic is that the carrots are really everything's sweet, and I don't really like super sweet. My palate has been trained to not crave sugar. Even the chocolate that I eat quite a bit of every night is 73% dark chocolate. Oh yeah, broccoli stock fries. That sounds awesome. Good night, Lisa. And then my friend I like also cucumber juice. And my friend has been bringing me these mammoth. In fact, I have one of them left. I'm going to juice tonight. He's bringing me these huge mammoth size cucumbers, because it happens that this one group of cucumbers he has is right next to his watermelons, so they've been cross-pollinated. So in many ways, these cucumbers are kind of like a really like unsweet, or almost an unsweet watermelon. Like if a watermelon was super, super lame, that's what these cucumbers are like. And for a cucumber, that's not lame at all. Yeah, and cucumber, what's nice about cucumber juice, I mean, it's very cleansing. I do it at night because if you know about, hello, Forrest Little. If you know, I'm very much into, what planets rule what plants, and cucumber is a moon plant. So if you're getting ready, getting ready for bed, some moon juice is very good. And if anybody's ever juiced a cucumber, you'll see how much froth you get from it. And that froth is kind of created by what are known as saponins. It's one of the reasons why cucumber makes a good face wash. Saponins is where the word soap comes from. But saponins don't have to taste like soap, but they have a cleansing effect. And so one of the nice things, and it's actually sometimes when I'm juicing these cucumbers, even though I only half of my thing is, I have like a thing with the top on it because the juicer I have there's only half juice, but meanwhile the froth is bubbling out of the top because it's very foamy. But that foaminess is very cleansing. So juicy cucumbers is just awesome stuff. And what's really interesting is how like after I'm done, you have the pulp that's left over. It's amazing how much of a cucumber actually is juice or water, because when you go to clean the thing out, there isn't a whole lot of pulp. It's not like when you juice carrots, you end up with quite a bit of pulp, even though you get a fair amount of juice. With cucumbers, so much of that thing just yields juice. I believe so, Suzanne. No, I don't skin them. Excuse me. I take off like about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch where where they attach to the stems. I probably don't even have to do that, but I do. But no skinning. I don't skin my carrots either. I just take off again, the place where the green parts come out. And again, that's about 1/4 of an inch. Yes. Well, the other thing is, swollen eyes, especially in most cases, is usually some heat there. So because cucumber is a moon influence, it removes heat. It has a refrigerant effect. Yeah, cool as a cucumber. So it's good to talk some gardening. To me, the most useful, the good thing about lawns are largely, no, I think I have some wild lettuce growing around here, Niche. There's a couple of, hello, CW. There's a couple of times where I've pulled out some leaves. They taste pretty darn good. And, you know, they have that lactucin in them. And that lactucin has, well, lactucin is very similar to what comes out of a real poppy. You know, but the real poppy has a lot more of that kind of effect. But there's certainly a nice kind of calming effect to wild lettuce. Iceberg lettuce, if you boil iceberg lettuce and you drink that juice, that'll help you sleep. Might even help a little bit with pain. Thank you, Joe. Very considerate of you. That's right, I don't want to use my holder. I'm just going to, once it gets a little too small, I'm just going to roll another one. Joe, feel free to respond to people. I won't consider it sidetracking. Apparently what you have to say would be more interesting than what I have to say. Besides, I'm talking about gardening, you know, so. I'm being a little bit of a bad boy here. Yeah, I did see an article some time ago about, you know, the iceberg lettuce. It's the least nutritional lettuce of all, and once again, the system that provides us our food wants us as unhealthy as possible because it's good for another part of the system that we call the farm care. And please spell farm with an F, because they treat people in their system like farm animals. Basically, you know, destined for slaughter. Nobody has to apologize. Everybody, you know, we do this and then we come back here. It's because there's love here, and where there's love, we can make this all work really smoothly. And there's quite a bit of real love here, as opposed to X's and zeros, professions of love, and then you go to say something and they're not there anymore. And if I had $1 for all the inauthentic love I've been offered, I would have no problem paying my rent. And I'm drinking my white tea with melon. Very good. I know that niche. That's why when Amanda was looking for you last week, is a niche here? I said, well, she could be, you know, as I know very often you're cooking or painting, but you're listening. So I went, niche, if you're here, somebody got, but you had gone, apparently were out of earshot, as they call it. Yeah, live streaming can be can be a rough profession. You know, at least as far as the abuse that comes in text form. Although the interesting thing is how generally those of us who do regular, who've been live streaming for a while and doing videos for a while, generally, you know, we can all have a bad night. We don't go in and start throwing punches. Lee, loyalty and consistency is kind of why you can trust everybody to reveal who they really are. So, you know, some people you can't trust. I will say, I trust everybody to reveal who they really are. Changes will be revealed as well. Calendal. That's why, you know, that's why you keep, you know, you keep your eyes open. You don't shut doors. At least I don't. Because people can change. Some people do change. And some people pretend to change. I just wish some people would change their diapers. I've always said it's hardened stool from an unchanged diaper that creates butt hurt. But for the chronically butt hurt, there's Asgard. Where you can bring out your inner Viking. So I've been doing a little riffing tonight, Blue Blood Jam. And welcome. Yeah, I heard about Asgardia. I'm thinking it's a refuge for the butt hurt. There's some good humor coming through here, and I mean that. Yep. And there was, you know, I'm kind of enjoying the humor because I really did kind of say what I needed to say, but I probably want to get back just a little bit to the Earth stuff. Blue chickens. From what I know of, they flew the coop. And it was kind of funny how it's just been mentioned, you know, now that Gaia's in turmoil and David Wilcock is finding new people to tell his dick jokes to. At the moment, it's not a target-rich environment. And there is some peril when there isn't a target-rich environment, because then sometimes those who, not everyone, but you know, it can get a little bit when distractions or the targets, and I understand people who have a lot bigger subscriber base than mine, and much of that is that subscriber base is dependent on you know, poking the buffoons. And then when those buffoons suddenly aren't you know, like they're kind of like these big blimps flying over the alternative community, so throwing stones at them is, you know, fair game. And a lot of people kind of, that's sport. That's why they show up. Yeah, let's just throw some stones and some darts and some arrows at that big old overstuffed blimp. But then when the blimp gets pierced and it falls, you still got a handful of stones. What do you do with them? With the I like that, with a punch of salt. That makes sense, Kalindal. We all know men don't like blue spheres. Oh, Lee, you know I started the Gary Busey thing. And then you ran with it. If ever there was somebody who appreciated some dig I made at somebody, Lee Veltman and Dig really appreciated my Gary Busey thing for this guy that Rex Bear used to have on Leak Project again, Jeff Doherty. A nice guy. I actually like Jeff. But he reminded me of Gary Busey. So I, as often happens in a Rex Bear a Leak Project stream and a live chat, I get bored. That's funny, see. You know, one of the things I just feel, you know, like there are some big scumbags, real world-class, world-shape shitting scumbags, you know, the kind of, you know, big name, really top names in, like, you know, the secret government, and that's, you know, Rothschild and, you know, shit like that. And you know, I mean, they seems to me, you know, that's why that was one of my big things about picking on buffoons like Wilcock and Good and other buffoons, when there are some world-class scumbags that contribute to the misery index of living on the earth. And it's just like, wonder why how come they're not part of the target? How come, you know, people aren't, you know, at least just heaping some shit at them? It's like a magical thing, man. You know, just heap some shit in their direction. Heap some rage in their direction. I remember the Romantics because that was back when VH1 or MTV, I think it was on. They were on VH1 because I kind of in the 80s spent a lot of time because that's when they played music. That's how I discovered Huey Lewis and the News. I actually liked Huey Lewis and the News. Want a new drug? And Huey Lewis made a nice little out-of-court settlement with Ghostbusters on that one. Yeah, I'm talking about the Goob line, the Royal Goob line. That's what the Goob song was about. Scum like that. The ones who never killed anybody. They just order those of us who go work for them to do all the killing. And that's the sad thing. That the only reason that these people aren't pitchforked is because there are those of us who will accept a paycheck from them to protect them. That's fuckery. The heart of rock and roll is still beating. It's funny, I had a song called Marijuana, and I recorded it, my God, when 1988. And it's on a cassette. And I made the cassette into digital, but for some reason my digital copy is got hiccups in it. But it was all about, you know, knocking heroin. Like the opening line was, I don't need heroin because I smoke pot. I don't need dope. I don't need smack, and that's a fact. I don't shoot dope because I smoke rope, marijuana, yeah. But now I'm going to turn that song into about hemp. Where I'm going to say, rather, it's not marijuana, it's hemp. It's not marijuana. Larry, Moe, and Shemp. No, it's not marijuana. How about you? Marijuana, it's hemp. What we gonna do? Elephant, you bring up a very good point because I made it earlier that shit sometimes happens in public, but then it needs to go private. Once it happens in public, it needs to go private. Like I don't know, Elephant, you're new here. I don't know if you know Rakshamoose. Rakshamoose kind of, called me out in a video. I took it immediately. Didn't make a video about it. I made a Skype message to him and said, we need to have a Skype call. And we worked it out really well. Because there was a misunderstanding. Misunderstandings, especially with crowds and text and everything. Oh man, no, we got to get face to face. We got to hear, we got to see, see the expressions and hear the tonal inflections, so we can know whether or not we're having a sincere conversation or not. Because that's the loving thing to do. Because the one thing sometimes, certain corners of YouTube resemble reality TV. Take a gander at my ass and goose me. Was your spelling of good intentional, Mr. Veltman? I didn't block you, Suzanne, and there's no. If you, I mean, again, I wouldn't want you to leave. Spreading it. It's all about the love. Oh, the 22nd. There is a fair amount of toxicity about niche. It's one of the reasons why I have been lurking a lot. I can watch the swimming in the cesspool without swimming inside it. The middle ground is like the middle chakra in our 7 chakra systems. It's in the heart. So, the middle ground is in the heart. So CW, does that make you a Leo Virgo hybrid? I know it's the cusp, but hybrid is more playful. CW is a hybrid. If my jokes get a little cutting here, I might be starting to channel CW. There we go. Ah. Well, my last Mystic Brew I did on Friday with my offering an opinion about what I would think is a really good representation of who Mama created, shall we say, the Anthropos. When I look at Cro-Magnon man with their bigger brain capacity, about 7 foot plus, really robust, shamanic, really close to the earth, and they, say in every way similar to modern man, but they call it Cro-Magnon, and then they call this a smaller brained, a smaller statured, genetic disease-ridden thing that we are now, Homo sapiens sapiens. But who did that? Who made that distinction? Oh, that's right, that was science. The same kind of people who bring us history. Same kind of people who, when Dutch Sense says, "Oop, this deep quake is going to have bad implications on Indonesia," they ignore him. Bad implications happen, but then they say, "There's no science to support that the Fiji deep quake had anything to do with the quake that hit Lombok. It's just a coincidence." Just a coincidence. I mean, the Lascaux paintings in France, you know, somewhere between, what, 35 and 70,000 years old, with a painting of a bull with the eye, basically Aldebaran, which is where the eye of the constellation is in the constellation of the bull, and then where the Pleiades would be in from the constellation of the bull is there on the cave. Oh yeah, the predecessor to modern man. It was the predecessor. What happened to modern man? It seems that some kind of diseased version got thrown into the mix. Something, a mimicry. Ooh, who likes mimicry? Oh, we won't get into that. A mockery. A drunken attempt to create something like the magnificence of the Anthropos. And then tell that malformed group to be fruitful and multiply. Oh yeah, we might have a thesis. And then, of course, call the native humans giants, you know, and pagans, and you know, people who must be killed with the weapons that we decided to make instead of farm implements. And don't forget to keep all the young breeding women so that you can infect them properly and create and diminish the original stock. Hello, Soul Traveler. And hello, Brosef. I don't think I greeted you. But that was Friday's rant, so I'm not going to rant on that anymore. Because it is a theory. You know, anybody who has a theory has their data. But not everybody's in the mood for theories. And you know, I know some people who love having these discussions with me. I know who they are, and I can have them. I don't have to really burden others with my thesis. So, we're kind of coming up on the time I normally will stop the transmission. But I'm going to get back to the title. The Earth is moving under our feet. Feats are actions, and sometimes inactions. It was like a bell was struck this past Saturday with that deep 9.2. And the ringing of that bell has not expended its energy yet. I believe that the climax of that bell ring will be, if not on the 26th of the full moon, the day night as it's coming full on the 25th. As I said earlier, it happened in Fiji. The numerological value of those 4 letters is 25. So I'm thinking, maybe that's a hint to the date, which is just around the full moon, like basically, hours before it, a day or so, 1 day. We all know that the full moon definitely puts some stress on tectonic plates. And if the energy of that deep earthquake traveling deep under the earth finds expression during that full moon, our feats may be kind of an identifier. You know something, Elephant? I don't know. They said it was the second strongest in recorded history, and I was pretty sure that the stronger one that was off of Chile, was in the 9s. But 8.2. Okay. All right. I stand corrected. And I don't mind being corrected, because I do mind being in error. You're welcome, Lee. But it happened, again, it happened really deep. And very little of that energy came to the surface, which is why there really wasn't much in the way of problems locally. And Dutch Synths has a model that over the years has proven to be quite on. Fiji. F-I-J-I. The reason that's important is because the numerological value. And it's really interesting that, to me, one of the fuckeries of English language is the letter G and its sounding, because in the runes that letter is Gifu. It's a G sound. And we have a J sound in the J. Similarly, the rune that corresponds to our letter C is Kano or Ken, and it has the K sound, like in cat. We didn't need an S sound because we had an S. See, I kind of use the runes to identify where the fuckery is, and that's one of the difference between the Elder Futhark and the Younger Futhark. The Younger Futhark has the fuckery added to it. So you have a C, a K, and an S. So you don't need those 3 letters. You need a K sound, and you need a sibilant or an S sound. So the fuckery is when you start you take the old K sound, you put a K in there, and then you take the old K sound, and you have this double duty, especially in English. And that's why I say that's the fuckery in English. You have the word city, and you have the word cat. Make up your fucking mind. How do you sound this letter? And in a really straightforward language construction, you wouldn't have that ambiguity. That ambiguity is confusion. Same thing with G and J. The G is G. But they even, again, and look what they did to original letter, the letter C, that in the Elder Futhark was with a K sound, Ken or Kano. And now we call that K sound, we even named it C. What did we do with the G sound? We named it G. That's fuckery. It's confusion. English is one of the big, let's say, kind of post-Tower of Babel kind of thing. And I know that history tells us that, oh, Babel was a long time ago. I think our story, or the mystery, my story, which is the personal part of our story, would say that much that has been placed, especially in the biblical works, as occurring thousands of years ago, might have been just many hundreds of years ago. And I think in the English language, we see real evidence of confusion of a language. It's kind of interesting when you think about again the Futhark. They do have an I. They have a rune Jera, and they also have a Y. And I think it's very interesting how in modern Norse languages they use the J as a Y. But then again, English wasn't the only language that was confused. It's just, to me, the prime example. And here's even an interesting word. In English, we have the word in, and we have the word on. So in most cases, you would say you live on the earth, not in the earth. But in Spanish, there's one word for both words, en, E-N. En can be on, and it can be in. So if when you're in Spanish, if you were to say, I live on the earth, it also could, again, it's in how it's used. But there seems to be something to this in-on mystery. I think Siri and Alexa are fucking creepy. What happens? What does Siri say when you touch yourself? That was a Divinal song. I touch myself. Okay, an auspicious time. 2 hours and 5 minutes. 25. So yes, I said what I needed to say for tonight. I do have concern about what happens later in the week, like Friday, Saturday window, with regards to seismic after effects of a bell that was rung this past Saturday. I said I share vision. There are some of us who share our visions and dreams. And fire is all over these dreams. And in one dream was particularly poignant, that those being having, let's say, a bad time with fire were drug-addled. And a drug is a drug. And addled is addled. Matter of fact, I now live in Appalachia, or Appalachia, as some might say. And on the forum I belong to, the One Truth, they ask you for your location. And as my location, I say, somewhere outside Adelpatia. Now there's a kind of an older, more when people were more literate, and you wanted to call somebody a little bit stunad, you might call them an addlepate. Addled, pate is your head. So I put myself as outside Adelpatia. But I live in Appalachia. And a really beautiful place here. Mother's milk comes out of the ground. People do lots of arts and crafts here. There's an old-fashioned fabric store instead of Joann's. Joann's used to be okay. Then they got bought out by something that turned it into Fabric McDonald's. Anyway, so I made it through here without burning the place down, but I certainly did a little dragon fire breathing. I kind of in the name of not setting fire to the greater community, I kept the target of my ire as he who shall not be named. A Voldemort kind of thing here. And there's a lot of irony in making a reference to one of the characters created by J.K. Rowling. A lot of irony. Anyway, so let me close on that note. And I thank everybody who joined us together here for all the humor. There was some really good humor going on here. Some real good laughs. Good to see you, Lee. Haven't seen you in a while, and I'm glad you rolled in here and you seem to be in a good place and enjoying hanging out with us. And so if you enjoy being with us, we enjoy having you with us. CW, thanks for being here, and happy third anniversary. I guess I want to say I like Nox Mente, and I don't see it as a sign of career decline. If somebody appears there. So let me have that as my closing statement, as a statement, and then of course saying, I love you all. I really do. I don't see anybody here I don't want to extend my love to, and that allows me to be authentic. And allows me to be authentic, and being authentic is kind of a requirement to stay in good with the sacred. And I will tell Moose Lee. Sam Webster, thank you for being here. Soul Traveler. Suzanne and Niche, CW, Elephant, our new member who's been hanging out with us. And Madfinger, I'm glad you showed up, and when you did, because until you showed up, I didn't have anybody to moderate. Should my words have inflamed anybody? And then Niche came in right behind you, and then I felt really good about being able to go a little bit deep. And well, thank you, Blue Blood. I enjoy. People say that about my streams, about it being grounding, and it's probably one of the kindest and most pleasant things people can say. I don't want to use the word nice, because when you really look at nice, it's like, eh. So it's very kind for you to say that, and it makes me feel like I'm, there's a purpose to this stream besides just turning on the camera and having a conversation. Because we really want to uplift each other, enrich each other, just, and bring meaning with the laughter. It isn't about being all serious and shit. Just about, speaking, trying to keep on things that actually really affect our lives, and knowing the things that can improve our lives, and knowing the things that are holding us back, and then kind of coming to a common ground, coming into that heart space where we will prevail. Oh, great, Forrest! I did my little dose. Actually, I was gonna take a whomping dose before I did the stream, but for some reason I wasn't guided to do it. I'm glad it is probably the best thing I have found for my nervous system, which is a little Vata dosha. If you don't know what that means, it's just a nerve kind of being in a body where the nervous system is just a little bit fragile would be too strong a word, but just not as it kind of unbalances easily, and this pace has been amazing for just kind of keeping those endocannabinoid receptors on my nervous system feeling like they're not so hypersensitive, and meanwhile plenty of mental clarity. And that's the thing I like about it. I want what cannabis, the genus, can give us for our endocannabinoid receptors. But I really, especially when I'm operating and doing all kinds of things and want to get shit done, I don't want the haze. Don't want it at all. It gets in the way. So this, and the paste has all the terpenes and the entourage ingredients that you want, that the isolated oils very often are missing and really want to have with them. That's why some of them you'll actually see they add like lemon or orange terpenes in there to make up for the terpenes that they lost doing this heavy duty processing. But those aren't really the terpenes that the hemp was expecting. It's kind of like it's almost like you remove the cannabidiols family, and then you just put some other people in and go, this is your other it looks like your family. All right. So anyway, that's my my promotion of hemp paste from mynutra.com. Anyway, be well. Take care of yourselves. Be in touch with Mother Earth if you're in a place that just might ring a little bit once some of this energy processes. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to animals. and how they're behaving. And we should all be able to see each other next week. All right. Great love and good night.